Oh, thank you, Bennett. I don't know how to work this stuff.
Mic check 1, mic check 2. Ha ha, ha ha.
Yeah, you sound average.
Yeah.
Check, 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 check.
We are live, everybody. But we're also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of this music. It's episode 94 of Kamloops Last Week. Christopher Folds, Bennett, Magic Mike, and Billa. 94.
This is the big
Here
one.
we go. This is the biggest
This
one
is
ever
the
for
biggest
you.
one ever. This is the biggest number since we've been on air. 1994. The last great sports year, if you're a BC fan of any teams. It's the year Day for Night came out for the hip. The fourth in their the four greatest albums, the last of the four greatest albums for the hip, 94. 1994, the Blazers won the Memorial Cup. 1994, the Canucks went to Game 7 against the Rangers in what is probably one of the greatest series of all time. It's indisputed, and their run from Calgary to Dallas, Toronto, and New York was probably the best run in the history of the NHL. That same year, the BC Lions, they defied all expectations. They beat Calgary in one of the greatest games of all time in the Western Final. They beat Edmonton the week before on the last-minute interception in the Western semifinal, and then they came back and they played Big Bad Baltimore. The first time an American team was in the Grey Cup. Louis. Last play of the game, 26-23, and the Lions won. And then here's an interesting thing: in June, the Canucks went to Game 7 and lost in New York. Fans rioted, wrecked Vancouver, right? And then 6 months later, the Lions, against all odds, had a home. They were hosting the Grey Cup. They win the Grey Cup. 17 years later, the Canucks go to Game 7, lose to Boston and Mark Recchi. Fans riot. Vancouver's wrecked. 6 months later, the Lions host the Grey Cup again, and they win.
Amazing.
Spooky.
And Mark Recchi on our show.
One last 94 thing. Also, the Expos won the World Series that year, so that's great too. They did.
No, they
won.
did not.
They did.
No,
So
they
it was
did
a great.
not.
It was the Blazers, the Lions,
was a
the
strike, was
Expos.
there not?
They
And
won.
they
won.
didn't
The
finish the
Expos and
season,
the
so they
Canucks
did not
went
win the
right to
World
Grade 7.
Series.
So they did win the World
But
Series.
take me back
Yes.
to Foldsy 1994. Just set the scene for the Grey Cup. I imagine it's you, and there's pipes in the corner, guaranteed. Guaranteed pipes.
So during that, I lived in an apartment in Abbotsford. I was working for the Abbey News, and I was just single and an idiot, drinking lots and partying with all my buddies. But all the people in the newsroom and friends, we go to my apartment and we watch every Canuck game. And we built a shrine or the little TV there. We had a Bible up there. We had the Canucks towels. We had the jerseys. We had some sage. We had everything going on there. We lit a candle, and we had to do the same
Probably
thing.
not the only thing you lit.
We had to do the same thing every day. We'd get back to my place. We'd get the beers going, and then we would always have to go touch the Bible. We'd always have to say something, and if one guy wasn't there, we'd have to chase him down and bring him there because you don't want to ruin, the mojo. It was a really amazing time.
And borderline blasphemy, but
No, because the Bible helped them go right to Game 7, and then something. We probably had the wrong version. We had King James. We needed something else.
Exactly.
And the Grey Cup. I was at the Grey Cup, and I got a little bit too lubricated beforehand. And when I was in the end zone with some buddies, and when Louis kicked the field goal, I was like, yeah, I thought it was halftime.
Yeah.
I was ready to go for a beer. It was
unbelievable.
I lost everybody. I ended up on the C bus going the wrong way, but it was a fun time. It was a fun time.
That's peak Foldsy right there.
Yeah.
What a show today, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, life is great. I just can't believe how much stuff actually went on in '94.
Yeah.
Because none of that was on my radar.
No. 94, you
I
were in
remember
grade
the
12 then.
Blazers.
Right? Grade 12 then you would have been
Yeah, it was
94?
great. I graduated in '94, and
Okay, well, that's a good year for you,
That I was
yeah.
going to go to electronic engineering technology in college, and that's also the year I decided to move to Kamloops too.
Were you valedictorian, high school?
No,
Just president of the AV club.
just president of the AV club. Yeah. But '94 was a great year.
It was a great year. It was one of the best
Musically,
years.
that's
yeah.
that's a good time for music too.
It's also a
Mid-
good time for music,
mid-90s.
right? 94.
Lots.
Yeah.
Well,
they still had the grunge was going on there, right?
Nirvana's still big.
I'm trying to decide, was it a good year for music, or was I just in my peak music years?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, 'cause-
exactly.
Yeah, so.
That's the same thing.
It was a great year.
It's amazing
for
that we're
music.
still in season 1, by the way, episode 94. I think at 101 is when we go to season 2.
It sounds good. Yeah. After the big game, big fundraiser.
That's right, after the big charity
In
pickleball
August.
matchup.
That's right, August. Yeah.
Today's show, Memorial Cup, huge game tonight. Seattle
game.
Kamloops winner goes to the semifinal. Loser goes to the tiebreaker game to play.
Peterborough Petes, who made it really interesting by beating Quebec last night 4-2. And we were hoping that would work just because it makes tonight's game, May 31st, that much more interesting and more important.
Yes.
I know someone had, I wrote up a real quick story after a game 2 days ago to say that, the scenarios, if this happens, it's meaningless. If this happens, it's meaningful. And some guy wrote in, sent me a message, and it was legit. He said, well, it's not really a meaningless game, even if nothing's on the line, because the winner of tonight's game, if there was no tiebreaker game, gets last shift in the semifinal, which it's important,
Yep.
right? But
Yep.
I was just saying that it's more meaningful tonight, big time, because no one wants to play 3 games in a row.
And we have 5-time Stanley Cup champion, 3 as a player, 2 as a coach, Mark Recchi, part owner of the Kamloops Blazers. He's in town and he's going to be in the hot seat with us to talk about this. And the Bruins and the Canucks rivalry, and expansion in the NHL.
And memories with Montreal and Patrick Waugh.
Patrick Waugh memories with Montreal.
Yep.
We also have Deb DeLyzer coming on the show. We're going to hear from, how about this, Hayley Wickenheiser, okay, 4-time Olympic gold medalist, and Craig Button, talking about hockey and
Friend of the show.
Blazers.
Second
Friend
time
of
on the show.
Pickleball, going to talk about
Pickleball,
pickleball too.
yep.
So it's a jacked and stacked show. First though, news, council meeting last night.
Yeah, last night's meeting was another marathon that didn't need to be a marathon, but it was long. It was so long. It started at 1:30. They had to stop just before 7 because they were still going on. They had to go to a public hearing, and then they came, and then they wrapped it up. The 2 big things from council. The big thing was council late in council's reports. They basically put the mayor on notice that they're tired of his stuff, tired of his shit. And they had a good point. So it turns out that the mayor had refused to sign documents, important documents. Refused one, said he didn't know about the others, but there's deadlines to these documents being signed. One was
Tax hike.
the tax hikes, the tax rate. He had to sign that by, so I think it was May 15th, and Stephen Karpuk, who was the deputy mayor for May, he signed that, and. He had to sign a code of conduct one for the mayor. The mayor claims that he was never shown these things. But the one that he did know about and refused to sign was he had to sign the final paper for the sale of Campbell Avenue to BC Housing. A couple years ago, the city of Kamloops bought the Northbridge Hotel, the Duchess Strip Club Hotel, and an adjacent property for $7.1 million. With the deal being they're going to flip the back lot to BC Housing so they can build an apartment building for seniors and low-income families, and they're going to sell to them, I think, for $3.6 million. And the city is going to sell where the hotel is now once they demolish it to a developer to make it nice.
And the mayor's concerned about that building eventually belonging to Ask Wellness down the road.
He mentioned that on our show a couple of times. His argument is that if in 25 years when the lease with BC Housing runs out and Ask Wellness ends up owning it, he said the city should own that. He also mentioned cryptically at the meeting yesterday that he had heard about some kind of deal, some kind of land transaction with Ask Wellness in the city several years ago that made him even more concerned. And that's why he didn't want to sign off on this thing. June 5th is the deadline to sign this and get that sale done. $3.6 million
you
sale.
might agree with him and think it's a good point, but council is making it abundantly clear that it doesn't matter what
It doesn't matter what he
at this
thinks,
point.
no, because council has already approved it.
Yes.
And under the community charter, the document that the mayor always likes to refer to, many councillors pointed out, under the community charter, under the law, you are obligated to carry out council's duty on their behalf. So council as a whole, including the mayor, makes a decision. Even if you vote against it, if a decision is made, you have to go and perform those duties as mayor. That's your job, to represent council, even if you disagree with it. As the corporate officer, Maria Mazzata, mentioned yesterday, the former mayor, Ken Christian, he would sign off on a lot of things that he voted against.
Yeah.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
And it was a roasting yesterday, and it was, you can go watch I think it's still on the YouTube channel.
If you have 11 hours of your day.
You got 11 hours to
How long was actually the meeting? It was
It was long. It was 5, 6, 7 hours. It was crazy. And part of that is at the opening of the meeting, the mayor's the chair, so he's failing in his duties to control it. Dennis Walsh again showed up. He's done more talking now than he has in his last term on council. And I get it, he has issues, and they're legit issues, but the rules are supposed to be, you're supposed to talk about the active things on the agenda, not things in the minutes from previous things. And he wanted to talk about this, and someone else came up and they want to talk about this, and it doesn't appear to be anyone's adhering to the 5-minute rule. It doesn't appear to be, and that's the mayor's job to cut him off and say that's it.
But you also have an issue with the long-winded nature of the councillors rambling on when it's not needed at times.
Yeah, so if council has expressed their concern...
You're so mad you're kicking the TV.
They've expressed their concern, as have many journalists and other people on Twitter, saying it's too long, there's too much going on. And I think the majority of that is the chair has to sort of, be a little more tight. But you also don't need... Yesterday they spent more than an hour talking about Tourism Kamloops' proposal to run again the concession in Riverside Park to rent out paddle boats and paddle boards and just water stuff to the community. Have some food trucks down there, make it vibrant. They did this in 2021. There was some concern from the community about commercialization of the park. This happened in 2021 amid the pandemic. The sky didn't fall. It was a great idea. It worked. It was perfect. There was no problems. And they had some local businesses in there in this concession building, just making it more livable down there. So they want to do it again this year. It should have been a 5-minute conversation. It turned into more than an hour about whether to sign a 1 or 2 year deal with Tourism Kamloops. Some councillors talk far too long. Too many councillors repeat what another councillor just said. I don't know if they just want to be on the record.
You're talking about the young...
At the very beginning of the council, they have a junior council in town where they have students that sit with councillors and they learn stuff. It's cool. And one of the young junior councillors addressed council to report how it went and what he thought about it. Nice kid, smart kid. And a couple councillors said, good job. But too many councillors would just repeat what other people say. You're doing a great job. We really like working with you. Can't you just say, great job, and go on? Do you really need to repeat, not just on that issue, on many issues? If you listen carefully, a lot of councillors will chime in purportedly just to be heard, and they just repeat what's been said.
Do you think you would practice what you preach if you were in their position?
Yes, I would. And this is not just this council. It's gone all the way back to 05, 06 when I first got here. It's because people, I get it. You get in the newspaper story. You want to be on the clip on the radio, on the TV. But if you don't have anything new to say, just stop talking, and then or don't complain about the meetings going so long, because that's not the major reason. But I guarantee that's an hour talk on Tourism Kamloops. Do we really need an hour debate on something so simple? I don't understand that myself.
The Magic Mirror, brought to you by Volkswagen. Any thoughts on this, Mike?
Bureaucracy frustrates me these days. I don't see any problem with having some commercial things going on in the park. There always has been. The concession was ran by a vendor and it was an exclusive arrangement.
Yep.
So for years we couldn't even bring in a food truck to do anything. So there is commercial stuff going on there. What's wrong with Tourism Kamloops doing a great job and trying to make it a little more interesting to go down to the park?
And it's going to be a go, and that's great. And we had it in 2021, and it was great. Mm-hmm. And I guess my point is, it's not
Why
the
an
new.
hour?
You saw what happened. You saw that it was a roaring success. You saw there was really no problems. Couldn't it just be done in a 5-10 minute conversation? I don't understand that. Maybe they can explain why it goes that long. I listened, I watched, I was baffled.
Have you...
They should supply snacks for the media and everybody.
Well, Gord's could bring cookies.
Yes, that's right.
Do you paddleboard? Have you ever paddleboarded, and have you worn a furry costume while paddleboarding?
I've never worn a furry costume. You see, they get wet, and then it's hard to swim. Like that kind of a thing. But yes, I have a paddleboard. I use my paddleboard a lot differently than other people do.
You lie down flat?
It's a swim up bar for me. But paddleboarding is there's a skill, I think, and I may have center of balance, gravity issues with it, but how fun. They had those, didn't they have those bikes with the big wheels and
Yeah,
stuff
they did.
on it
Yeah,
too,
and
right?
they had the recumbent water bikes there. They had the paddles. They had kayaks.
Let's bring people down to the park. Music in the Park does that.
Plus, they also have rentals for like non-water stuff, bocce, frisbee, or whatever. You can go into the park, and it just makes it way more vibrant, family friendly. There's really no downside to it, and that's what I'm saying. Is like, what's to talk about?
In 1994, 4, I think that
12
was the
for you.
start of Music in the Park. It was very close to that. Nobody would go into the park. It was Deadsville. Like the only people that went down there were people you were afraid of.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then Henry Small started when he was on the Community Arts Council, had an idea, went to the city, and I can't remember the guy's name in the city that said, yeah, this is a great idea, and they put it together, and everybody made this whole thing happen, and we'd have 50 people down at Music in the Park. I remember Jack Johnson would do Christian karaoke on Sundays. We just needed to fill spots. How do you fill 7 nights a week?
It's
right?
a lot, and all summer too, 2 months worth.
And now we go down to the park. You see people playing frisbee, yoga classes going on. It's a healthy, vibrant park.
I like seeing those LARPers. You know, those guys that dress in medieval
Oh, yeah.
costumes. and they do that.
Bill's really
you
into
could do
that.
some
Bill
LARP.
just came back from an SCA.
I love the LARPers.
Bill's a LARper.
Bill's a LARper.
Oh,
Bill loves pickles, too.
LARPing and SCA are totally different, and it's like terrible.
That's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Bill's a big LARper. Okay,
Speaking of LARPing and SCA, that's basically what we decided we wanted to do on our trip last week.
well, before we get to what we did on the weekend, because we had a huge weekend, the 3 of us, didn't we? I want to make monumental announcements about sponsorship.
Oh, okay.
So, McDonald's, they've been with us for a long time as a segment sponsor. They have upped the ante. They've leveled up with us to become a co-title sponsor.
Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
So massive, like we can't do the show without money. We just can't. Bosses get mad, show goes in the tank. Also, the Magic Mirror, they like what you're bringing to the table, does Volkswagen, because they have extended for 3 months their contract with KLW to continue sponsoring the Magic Mirror, brought to you by Volkswagen. And we just had Gord's on here last week celebrating a year of sponsorship. So can't do the show without you. We appreciate it, and thanks.
Yes. Yep.
But now, the 3 of us, what a weekend, wasn't it?
It was.
It was all about the Memorial Cup, right?
Yeah, and we decided that we would get our game on by dressing in SCA style clothing, right, Bill? Feels like I'm on.
What does SCA stand for again?
Society for Creative
Anachronism. Yeah, okay, right. LARPers, basically.
No.
So
no,
we weren't SCAing, but we were LARPing. That's how I remember it, fondly.
Right down in Riverside next to the Memorial Cup stuff.
And
Yeah.
Folds shows up, and he's dressed like the Tin Man, but he's wearing this heavy metal, right? And he can't even get himself around. So he's so thirsty. We had to go to McDonald's after, and it's just a great thing because they've extended their summer drink special all the way to September 26th. So
My birthday.
his birthday.
There you go. When I get the senior coffee deal.
There you
That's
go.
the age.
Oh,
There you
really?
go, yeah.
Is that happening?
Yeah, September 26th, baby.
You and I are going to hang out a lot more with the senior discount thing. That's great.
But anyway, Folds, he's basically dehydrated, and he's got his sword going like this, and then what happened?
Well, that's when we decided we'd cut up a Sealy mattress from Gord's, and we took the comfort padding, which is also cooling, lined your tin suit with that,
Right.
and we had the armor so that when the uncareful Foldsy was swinging his sword, it wouldn't hurt us. at
Right,
all.
because the sheer quality of what's inside a Sealy from Gord's, it might as well be like the finest armor ever created, going back to samurai days.
In fact, I think, and I'm not, it's a rumor, but the WHL might ask them to use that for shoulder padding next year
Yes.
in hockey.
Absolutely.
Sealy shoulder pads.
Sealy shoulder pads, that's right.
But
Seems
Folds,
reasonable.
again, he's so tired, and he sees that he's got his Volkswagen in the parking lot, and he
And
goes,
the chairs are so comfortable.
the chairs are so comfortable in a Volkswagen. And he was a little bit disappointed because of the lack of selection in SUVs, or perceived lack of selection at one point.
I heard there was a lack of selection.
Right, so, but
Long time ago.
So he got his armor on and he started marching out to Valley View to go to Volkswagen. And he barely made it. Just as he gets to Volkswagen, he sees this wide array of SUVs available now, because it's not like it was in the pandemic. The supply issue days
I was
are
quite
over.
surprised, so I shed the metal and I asked for a test drive, and I drove it just a little ways up the hill from there, and I saw the Dream Home, and I pulled up in the Volkswagen, and the people in the Dream Home were looking at the Volkswagen while I was looking at the Dream Home.
Should
Mike,
have done a trade.
Yes.
Mike he had a trebuchet though. He had a trebuchet.
You know what? I got to tell you, some people think catapults are the bomb, but trebuchet is the answer, especially because it's fun to say trebuchet.
Yes, and you brought it up to the dream home, and you're looking down on the city, just firing off rocks.
Mr. Burns style.
Pretty dangerous. Luckily, landing on Sealy mattresses, and nobody got hurt. Incredible day for us.
What a weekend.
Yeah. Let's move on now to the Tattle of Hastings, brought to you by.
Don't want the 9-hour cycle, please.
Freaking $500 hydro bill piece of trash.
I need to speak to Gord on the 9er.
Hey, no, I'm actually Steve, the new owner.
First things first, pal. You should probably update your sign. Number 2, my dishwasher is tangled again. The 9-hour cycle, hydro bill through the roof. You guys don't fix appliances, I know that, so I need a new one.
We actually do fix appliances, but if you want, I can try some new ones first and have a look. You got a price in mind?
Money's not an obstacle for me.
Money's definitely an obstacle. He's the cheapest guy in Kamloops. Ain't that right, Darby?
Well, this here is going to be your Cadillac model, top of the line. This is our middle-of-the-road dishwasher, just a great dishwasher at a great price. This is our budget-friendly model, still a great dishwasher, just at a bit of a lower price.
Price doesn't work for me. Let's see if you can fix mine at home.
Alrighty then. There you go, seems to be good. How's the fridge working?
The fridge is fine, Gord.
It's Steve.
Mark Recchi,
It's great to be here. Yeah.
this is your hometown. I've been into your parents' house. Do they still live in the same place?
They moved actually right before COVID, right? Not the greatest time to go into a smaller place. So
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
so they moved right then. So yeah, they've been out of it for a few years now.
But this is your old hood right here. And
Oh, yeah.
we had a story, I think, or Folds had a story about some old buddies.
I have a friend named Emilio DeRose, and he used to hang out back in the day with some of your brothers.
Yeah.
And he used to tell me that he knew you were going to make it because they would be up to no good on a Friday night, drinking beer, maybe doing something else. And he said it'd be a Friday night, you'd be younger, you'd probably be a teenager, and they'd be partying, and then you'd come running back from a 10-kilometer jog, and you just look at them and shake your head and go in and have a shower.
Yeah.
And they knew you were going to be something because they were just drinking beer on
Yeah.
a Friday night. Is that,
Was that how
is
you
it
were,
true?
though? I mean, were you dedicated like that from an early age?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I just I knew that I always wanted to be fit, and I loved to run in that. So yeah, I mean I still had my fun, but as I got a little older, but when I was younger, I was really totally focused, and I wanted to give myself every opportunity.
Now you're
Yeah.
part owner of the team. We had Daryl on here last week saying he was cleaning out horse troughs. And Shane's probably shining shoes. I think you're a chauffeur today. Gord Bamford?
Oh yeah, going to pick up Gord here at 10. This morning, and he's just said he's taking off. So he just told me he's taking off, so he'll be here pretty soon. So
What's this whole week and time like for you as an owner?
it's incredible, really. This has been a fantastic. I mean, the city, the volunteers, the president Norm, Eves, the committees, Daryl Sador, they've Steve Passmore. Angie, our whole staff has done an absolutely incredible job of setting this up. I mean, we couldn't have better weather for this as well. And I think this has really represented Kamloops very well. I mean, people are getting a taste of how beautiful a place this is, and how great the people are, and what a great community this is. So it's pretty neat to be back and be part of it.
As far as on the ice, your assessment of the Blazers so far?
Well, obviously, the first game wasn't very pretty.
Yeah.
The compete wasn't quite there. Now you can blame the 16 days, but the rust I get, but the compete's always got to be there. And then the next game was total opposite. And if we play like that, we're going to give ourselves a chance. That game was incredible. Our forecheck, we were physical all over the ice. We were competing. We won all our battles, and we caught a team that played back to back, but we came to play. And like I said, we got big ones with Seattle, and see where this goes.
With the compete in the first game, any thoughts on why that maybe wasn't there?
Yeah, you know what? I just, it's all of a sudden, it's elevated. You've been off for 16 days, and you got a team that just, only had, 5 days off, 4 or 5 days off like they had, and they're coming in, and they're, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to, you get kind of away from it, and you forget how hard it is to to play a playoff game.
Yeah.
And I think some of our guys forgot, but they got a good wake-up call real quick, which is good. So hopefully that was our worst game of the tournament, and we go out there and show what we can do.
Well, like you said, the Peterborough game, you were all guns a-blazing. Two talking points I wanted to talk about. The hit. Just your opinion on the hit on Kyle Masters. Did you think it was a dirty hit?
You know what? I don't think it was a dirty hit. I just, in a 10-2 game, I just didn't see the reason why he had to finish his check there. I mean, I know you're playing in a tournament, and I get it, but in that sense, he knew he had the guy in a vulnerable position. I don't think it was a dirty hit. It wasn't definitely not a penalty, but it's the circumstances of the game, and it's too bad. I mean, it's he's a big important piece. We're going to have to have some young D step up, or in the back end and see what happens.
Well, that was my next question. I talked to Olin Zellweger, and he said the same thing about the hit. He said it's like they saw the scoreboard, they were angry, and that was taking anger out on Kyle Masters. That was what the sentiment was from him. I talked to Hazer as well. So big job for him now to kind of manage these minutes with these D. You've got basically 3 veterans and then 3 rookies.
Yeah.
So how do you see that shaking down, and what's going to be the most important thing to keep them fresh?
Well, I mean, obviously, Zell plays he's going to play his minutes, and he's a pretty special player, and he's going to get his minutes. But the young guys they're fine. I mean, they're good players, and what a great time to step up. Get an amazing opportunity like this, and just embrace it and grab it, and just go play your game. Like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything special. You just got to play your game, and that's I think that's the important thing. And I know Hazer will be working with these guys. He's a terrific coach. So
I mean, Harrison's had a great year and a great playoff. Ryan had a real nice confidence about him when I talked to him after the game too. So maybe it's kind of a meant to be thing. We'll see.
On the note about when you mentioned on the hit, I've heard a good definition was it wasn't dirty, but it might have been careless hit, right? Because like you said. But on that note about the first game, maybe too much time off, and maybe Quebec was still. Is there any upside to playing more games this week, and downside to Quebec having 4 or 5 days off? From your experience?
Yeah, it could be, definitely. I mean, it could help. I mean, if we can get a good win today, then we, don't play for a couple days, and then not till, hopefully you get another win.
Keep the momentum going.
Yeah, you build the momentum, and, whether it's whatever team, somebody's going to have to play 3 games in 3 nights, possibly. Yeah. That's tough in a scenario like this, in big games like this. But I think if we can build momentum, we can be a real benefit for us going into that.
When you played in these big Stanley Cup series in your career, did you prefer to just get right back on the ice, or did a day or 2 help you better?
You wanted to just keep playing. Yeah. The great thing about every other day is awesome. Yeah, okay. You just know what you got to do, and sometimes those 2 days in between were nice, but maybe later. But you still wanted to just get going. Unless you had a 5 overtime game, then you needed that extra day. But, but it's something. I think you just want to keep playing and really get going, and keep that momentum, and you get in a really good rhythm when when that happens. So.
Patrick Waugh, he has a presence. Huge commands respect. Yeah. You know him very well. You play with him in Montreal internationally. So what's your relationship like with him?
Well, we had a great relationship in Montreal. I haven't had an opportunity to see him this week. I ran into Simon Gagne, who is on their bench too, and we played together in Philly for 5 years. Right. Great young man. And Patrick was an amazing teammate. He was awesome. He had a great swag about him. He held himself accountable. He was and obviously one of the top goalies to ever play in the history of the game. And he's a competitor. And you can see it on the bench, and it's he's got his team playing very well. I mean, they're running. The last month has been pretty incredible.
Yeah. 95. Take us back to 95, 96. Then that game, because you must have been on the bench when he
December 2nd,
let in those
95.
goals, and Tremblay wouldn't pull him, and he kind of pulled himself and had words with the brass behind him. What was that like to be a part of that?
It was pretty sad because we knew we were losing a heck of a goalie. So it was, he talked to the president right behind the bench there, and, we're like, oh no. I still don't know what he said, but it was, it was a tough day for Montreal Canadiens. He's a proud person, and a pretty tough spot he was in and put in. And, him and Mario were roommates, when Patrick first came up. So it's kind of funny how that all played out, but kind of sad at the same time. And then he went in Colorado and won another cup.
And he actually played for his childhood idol team, Quebec, but in Denver, right?
Yeah.
So that game was 11-1 for Detroit. Guess who scored the only Canadiens goal?
Was it me?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I was probably about -4 though.
Yeah, you scored the only goal. That's right.
Is it possible for, as a player, as a junior player, these Blazers to be kind of affected by a head coach who has that kind of command, or is it not even really a factor?
I don't think it's a factor. I think he doesn't. You're not playing against him. I mean, he's not talking to any players or getting anybody's head. I mean, he's a very classy person, but they know Patrick Waugh's on the bench, but it doesn't bother you one way or another.
Anything you were talking about maybe expansion or?
Well, I just thought because we were going to have Shane Doan was going to be here too, and we really wanted to ask him about what the heck's going to happen with Arizona. But you're dialed in with the NHL. Two things: what's going to happen with the Coyotes? Who do you think? And why is the NHL, especially the old guard like the Jacobs family in Boston, why are they so reticent to go to? Why are they so against to going to Quebec when they have something ready to go there?
I'm not sure why. Honestly, it's kind of mind-boggling. It'll be successful right away. They'll fill out the building. That place will be jammed every night. I'm not sure.
I've heard maybe corporate sponsorship might not be as big there as in Toronto or Montreal, but like you say, it's working in Winnipeg, right?
Winnipeg, it's working. They've got a great franchise there, and it could definitely work in Quebec. Like I don't know how much longer. I mean, they know they're committed to one more year, but I mean that at some point you gotta it's uncle.
Probably Houston though, eh?
It sounds like Houston. I mean that's obviously the north. It's the third or fourth largest market in North America, so that's what it sounds like. But, I mean, Quebec would be a great option as well, and it also Houston keeps them out west as well.
Yeah, and gets a national rivalry with Dallas.
Yeah.
But if you're Gary Bettman right now, where would you put the team?
Where would if I had to move them right now? It would be Quebec would be a great spot, and then obviously you got to figure out. Houston has an arena, but it's a little bit older now too, so they'd have to build a new arena too.
Switching gears a little bit, I was watching Donnie and Dolly last week. Don Taylor and Rick Dollywall, it's my favorite show. You came up because they did a poll. The best BC-bred hockey player, basically, coming out of BC. And you were on the list, but you weren't getting a lot of votes.
Yes.
And they were surmising it's just because of the Canucks' relationship with Mark Recchi, because they see you as the big bad Boston Bruin. What's that like, being kind of like a bad guy a little bit in BC to some
hometown
people?
bad guy.
Yeah, I'm okay with that because we won the cups. I'm okay, I mean, they definitely. I mean, it's been 12 years, 12 years now, and
they still bring
it is what. Yeah, they still. I mean, it's amazing, but they're passionate about their sport, and I mean that's fine. I mean, I grew up here in Kamloops, and this is my hometown, and I know what the people are like here, and I have an amazing time here, and Vancouver is a different ballgame, but that's fine with me. Like I'm very fortunate to win a cup at the end of my career in BC, and have all my family there, and that was a pretty special time, and but somebody had to win or lose, and I'm glad it was me, and I'll take the heat for it, so it's okay.
Was there something about that Canucks team that just drew the ire of your team though?
Yeah, they had a lot of swag. They played. They had a little bit of cockiness to them, which is fine. I mean, that's how come they got there.
Yeah.
And they had a heck of a team. I mean, obviously everybody knows it was an amazing series. So, it just came down to one game, and we were fortunate to do it. But they had some incredible players, and they were very competitive. They were the reason why they were there. And
they talk a lot on the ice.
Yeah, they did. Everybody, we did too. So it was a very competitive series right off the bat. It was like sometimes it takes a little bit of feeling out, and right off the bat there was emotion. Like sometimes it's 2 or 3 games, and then everybody's getting PO'd at each other and mad, and that competitive comes out, and it happened right away with that. And but they were a great team. So were we. So we had some size and some physical players as well. So.
What do you make of this in that series? Aside from the last game, I think it was 4-0, right? The last game, but every game in Vancouver was one goal, maybe overtime, so close. Almost every game in Boston was a blowout. What is it? Because what's about playing in Boston that causes teams to collapse like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we just obviously we were down 0-2 going back to Boston, and then we went back and said we got to take care of business here, and yeah, we played great hockey there, and I don't know why,
something to do with
there was 3 games, the 3 games we won there, they weren't even really close.
They weren't.
So,
no.
Yeah.
Anything else from you?
Just what are you doing now, career-wise, personal-wise? I know you've been with Pittsburgh in the coaching, New Jersey. You were at Dallas as a consultant. What's happening now with respect to post-hockey career?
Yeah, well, after Dallas. I went into player development in Pittsburgh for about 5 years, I think, maybe even 6. It was a little bit long. I mean, I was moving pretty high up there. I was right under. It was Jimmy Rutherford, myself, Billy Guerin. We had Derek Clancy. We had like a few of us that Jim Rutherford. I was in all meetings. I was kind of in a little bit of everything, which was awesome. I was really kind of loving the management part, and then Talkett left, and they asked me if I'd jump on board in coaching, and they kind of talked me into it, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And then I did it for a couple of years, and I went to Jersey for a couple of years. But I think I want to get back into management. That's kind of my focus right now, is I want to get it back in. I like the building process of building a team, and I love helping younger guys, and whatever role it would be. So I think management's my next move if I can get in.
Have you talked to your old buddy Rutherford in Vancouver?
Yeah, well, I haven't talked to him about that yet, but I mean, I think they're pretty full there anyways.
Yeah.
They got a lot of people on staff, so they'll get it going there in the right direction. But so hopefully find something here this summer and get back into the game. And I took the year off, which I really enjoyed. Got to spend time with my family and visiting my kids. Are kind of all over the place right now.
All right, so I see you in Quebec next year.
Yeah.
With the Nordique.
Before we let you go, you and I have a long-standing beef that you maybe don't even remember. And Shane don't. I think that's why Shane didn't show up today too, actually. He's not ready for the rematch. Anyway, we've got a little clip here to see if you can remember this, Mark.
There's a lot that scares me about Marty. Mental stability would be one of the things that you're concerned about. The suspenders, obviously. But you're worried that may cut off some circulation to some valuable parts.
How do you respond to that?
I'm listening to Shane, but all I hear is, "Ooh, I'm the great NHLer." The big ego shining through, the $1 million man here. The time for talk is over, boys. The time for talk is over. Full start.
Not too often you get the chance to compete with someone at his caliber.
And we're down to ice level now with Marty, the reporter. Marty, what an opportunity to take on a 3-time Stanley Cup champion in Mark Recchi in a Beat the Blazer event.
Yeah, quite frankly, John, I'm a little bit upset. I thought I was getting Mark Recchi today, but Recchi will have to do.
I think my wrist shot would probably be the slap shot.
Oh, well, I think the radar gun's faulty. The cops gave it to us, no surprise. I wasn't speeding on Tranquille the other day either. The cops around here and the radar guns are terrible.
Well, let's get to the bottom of this right now, okay? Because Yves Lacasse is your pal, is he not?
He is.
And he was holding that radar gun.
And he was the chief of police back then.
So I'd like a rematch at some point.
Anytime. Anytime. I'm ready.
Those were your playing days.
Yeah.
You were still playing. You missed. How much do you miss it playing?
Yeah, at times I do. I didn't put on my equipment for, after I played, I didn't really. I had a couple fantasy camps, and then 17 was the last time I put on equipment until I played in Lemieux's fantasy camp about 2 months ago.
Wow.
So I'd been 6 years since I wore equipment. I mean, I practiced. I skated a lot because we're, in coaching, you're skating, but I didn't have equipment on. I didn't have half my equipment, and I had to call the Penguins trainer and say, I need some stuff here. So, and I had no sticks either. Thank God Mike Sullivan uses my pattern, so I just grabbed a couple of his sticks. So.
All right, before we let you go, last thing, prediction. What happens in the Memorial Cup?
Well, obviously, I hope it's the Blazers. So, I mean, this is what we've dreamt of as an ownership, and for these young guys here, we hope that they get the opportunity to win here. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. There's 4 really good teams here, and anything can go. I mean, it's one. You're getting down to 1, 2 games here, 3 games, and I hope it's us, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be a good battle, and I hope our guys are ready.
Okay. Well, you've got to get to the airport here to get to Gord Bamford.
Gord Bamford, that's right.
We'll let you go. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
That's awesome.
Volkswagen.
We have Deb DeLyzer, Executive Director of People in Motion, with us today. And it's Accessibility Week, just coming into the end of it. And we wanted to have you on here to talk about all things accessibility, but more specifically, all things People in Motion. When I really first got knowledge of People in Motion, when I first got to Kamloops, was years ago. But then a few years ago, we did a story on a bus that you guys raised money for, and then learned much more about why the bus is so important. So explain to the viewers, if they don't know, what is People in Motion? Why is it important? What do you do?
So People in Motion, this is our 35th year actually in the community. And our tagline is really creating a better tomorrow together for people living with disabilities. The bus, we did a fundraiser just prior to my arrival as executive director, so about 5 years ago. And it's an 18-seat paratransit bus. It holds 4 wheelchairs. There wasn't any other form of transportation in our community at that time for anybody with physical limitations, but that program has really come a long way. So about 2.5 years ago, one of the vehicles that we had donated by Ralph Warner from Warner's Rental, at the same time we got the bus. He surprised us with that vehicle. It's called Little Nate's Van because Ralph has a child named Nate, and so we named the van after his little one. I recognized real quickly that van wasn't being utilized to its full capacity, so a little over 2 years ago, we had it modified to support wheelchairs as well for short haul sort of steps. And I wrote a grant to United Way, and they were instrumental in paying for that modification for us. So they've been really helpful with that. And then another grant came across my desk from Toyota Canada, and they were giving away 3 vehicles. And my grant won a 2021 Sienna hybrid van. Wow. And the chairman of Toyota was so impressed with how we were going to utilize that vehicle that they paid, I think it was around $45,000 to have that vehicle modified for a power side exit. So now we have the bus and we have 2 vans. So we created this program called Memories in Motion. And I did the inaugural run. I took a gentleman who was 62 years old to the Kelowna Cancer Clinic because he was in a wheelchair and couldn't transfer onto the volunteer bus that we have that typically goes. So I did that one, and since then we've been taking, we've done well over 200 trips. We've taken people to last-minute medical appointments they can't get to. We've taken people to celebrations of life. Recently, we just drove a 90-year-old woman to Little Fort for a celebration of life, and she gave us a very generous donation. And the program is all just by donation only. So
it's not just people who are mobility challenged, or is it people who just are they can't drive, they're isolated? How does that
Correct.
work? Yeah.
It's for anyone who really has mobility issues. There's a lot of people who don't have a wheelchair or walker, but they're not capable of getting on city transit and so on. Our Handy Dart now requires a minimum of 3 business days to book a bus, so it's very challenging, and and it's such a demand. So again, I wrote a grant to the City of Kamloops for the Social and Development Grant. So far, the city has been kind enough to provide us with $46,000 to support this form of transportation. So it's evident that in our community there is a need for it.
There is a need, and you mentioned when we talked at the newsroom last week, you mentioned one specific story about a gentleman who lives in the G&M trailer court across the Sun Rivers. Can you expand on that?
So this is another situation that I'm working on and and trying to make some great connections with TTS. Handy Dart will not pick up anyone residing on the reserve. So we have a gentleman who lives in the G&M trailer park, and he's been attends AA meetings when he can, and then COVID hit, he didn't have that opportunity. So we are actually taking him to his AA meetings because that's the only form of transportation. And he has a bit of a cognitive disability, so he's not able to drive, even if he had a vehicle. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing to support people in our community. That, I mean, the transportation is huge.
That's a literal life-saving transportation.
Well, it is.
If
You can imagine,
yeah.
you know, you have an addiction,
You
and
need
if
to
you're
get
not
there.
able to get the support that you require, we hear about this all the time with those on the street, right? If they're not able to get that assistance, you know, it just gets worse.
How do we stack up as a city in comparison to cities across the province?
Well, I'm always try to give kudos where I can to the city of Kamloops. I think we do a phenomenal job. The main source of revenue for People in Motion is our disabled parking permits, so the placards that hang on your rearview mirror. Currently, we know we manage from Kamloops all the way up to Prince George, but our database shows currently now that we have over 11,000 active people with permits in this community. So we know how many people, you know, the historicals, we can work from that. But recently, the accessibility law was passed in the province, and part of that is every municipality must have an accessibility committee. So the city of Kamloops has stepped up. Every department has a member there, and then there's a subcommittee, and I've been invited to sit on that. We've met a couple of times, and so we're going through all things accessibility in our community in particular. We give that feedback to this group, and then we're hoping by the 1st of September we'll have a plan in place moving forward for that. And we've got people on the committee, like organizations like myself who work with people with disabilities, but more important, we have people in our community with lived experience. Their input is valuable, and so, you know, as for the accessibility water park that just opened up in Riverside, it's really the first of its kind in the province. And the city of Kamloops invited myself and other organizations and people with lived experience prior to finalizing the plans to get feedback from us.
And make sure you know what you're doing, right?
And you know, there was another gentleman who was visually impaired, who lived in a large complex outside of Sahali, and he had to go across the street with no crosswalk, walk up a block, come around to even try to get on city transit. So myself, I took on advocating for this gentleman, and within 1 year, the city put in a sidewalk, which is now used by many families, parents with a stroller, others that are on crutches or walkers, and it's really great. We've asked for some mobility mats with the city of Kamloops, and they've come through with 5 mobility mats. So when we're at Music in the Park, for instance, it can be used to roll out so people have a better terrain to walk on, or use their walker or wheelchair, or a parent with a stroller again. So I think our community in our city, and I don't want to speak just to city council, it's the people who are working within their own departments, like Jeff Putnam and Linda Stride, who've been Ben Chobater, who are really instrumental in getting a lot of this done, and they're heading up some of these committees too. So I think we're going to be give others, communities in this province, really quick a run for their money, because our mandate is to become the most accessible community there is in the province. So that's where we're at.
Before we let you go, how can people help?
Well, I mean, we're always looking for great donations, and we're always looking for volunteers to help support our programs. But donations are key at this point. The funding that we have received for the Memories in Motion program in particular has run dry. So we're now using our operating account to pay for things. So if there's any businesses, organizations out there, donations are gratefully accepted. And that 18-seat paratransit bus was it's a charter bus as well. We just did the charter for the Memorial Cup for the pub crawl for the North Shore Business Association.
Both sides of the river.
And the Downtown Business Association. So that was great.
Were you on that, Mike, by chance?
There it is.
I feel like I might have been, but no, I wasn't. But it sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it went really well. So we had a few of the pubs in Kamloops, and we provided a safe shuttle. It was. I think there was around 50 people who utilized it this time, but it was the first one. It was the inaugural one.
Was there any incidents on the bus?
Not at all. Everybody was really good, except for our driver, Earl. Couldn't get the FM radio to work, and they were asking for tunes. So they asked, Earl asked the group to sing karaoke, so they sang the Dixie Chicks. Earl, Die Earl.
Oh yeah, that's a great song. I like that song.
Complete harmony. So that was a fun event. He really enjoyed himself. It was great.
How you watch the show sometimes? Our show?
I always.
Okay. What do you think of how does it compare in here to how you thought it would look?
Well, I had a pretty good understanding because my son's in this industry.
Okay.
So I knew that it's not always as pretty as it looks on the screen. But
That's a shot at you, Mike.
but this desk looks exactly like it does for sure. And
How do people get a hold of you if they want to donate?
The best way is to go to our website at peopleinmotion.org. That's the simplest way. There's a donate button there. You can also look at all the other services and programs that we run. And you can always stop by the office. We take checks, cash, credit card.
Where's the office?
We are at 182 Unit B, Tronquil Road. So we are next to Sipper's Winery and the Canco gas station.
Right near the Canco gas station. That's right.
For you folks.
Yes.
Okay.
What'd you say?
The winery's right there.
The wine, that's a good place. Absolutely.
Okay, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. I do appreciate it. And National Accessibility Week, if I could just say, runs this week. One last thing, ride to work with your bike this week. We're manning the station from 6:30 to 8:30 every morning, and we have our hand cycles on display for people to utilize and come and try them out.
Hand cycle.
Yeah, you do
It's a bicycle.
Yeah,
you use your arms instead of your legs. So
you're recumbent, right? I saw a guy going up Patch Hill all the time like that.
Yeah.
What station are you guys at? There's 7 in town. Which ones?
We are outside the North Shore Business Association.
Wilson, 115 Tranquil Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks very much.
Thanks
Thank
again.
you. Let's wrap the show. Your thoughts?
Good show. Mark Recchi was fantastic. I've really never talked to him before. And just a great guy, good stories. I'm glad you didn't bring up my thoughts on Eric Lindros because he played on the Crazy Eights line, so that was good.
It was Renberg, Lindros, and Leclerc.
No, Recchi was on it too. He was on.
He wasn't on the Legion of Doom?
No, with the Crazy Eights. He
played
with
Crazy Eights. Sorry.
He played with Lindros and I can't remember the other one. 8.
Hextall, Pavel Bure.
Hextall was on the Flyers.
This was Leclerc, wasn't it? Leclerc?
I don't know about I don't remember the Crazy Eights. I remember Legion of Doom.
No, the Crazy Eights was Lindros, Recchi, and someone else. In fact, that year he played with them.
Was Leclerc 18? Because it might have been.
Recchi set the record, 120 points, the most points ever by a Flyer, and it stands today. He still has the most points as a Philly Flyer. And then he got traded to Montreal after that. So,
I'm looking it up. People are going to be.
Actually, Leclerc, I think, came to Philly in that trade, didn't he?
Yes.
From Montreal?
Yeah.
Brent Fedek.
Fedek, there you go. Yeah, Brent Fedek.
See, that's...
Fedek, Recchi,
I don't feel
and
so bad
Lindros,
anymore.
right? Yeah, and Leclerc came on that trade, I
I'm
think.
sorry, you said you felt dumb?
I
Is that what you said? Because if you
so
felt dumb, what does that make me feel?
No, I said I don't feel bad anymore because I didn't know who that was.
Anyway, interesting. Hall of Famer, Kamloops boy, still holds the record for the most points for the Flyers. When you consider Reggie Leach and Bobby Clark and all that, that's pretty impressive.
And we have our charity pickleball matchup coming up. I have to really start organizing that because I've been dropping the ball. Pickleball, Craig Button.
Yes.
Craig Button's a big pickleball guy. We've
is.
had him on our show. I tracked him down at the Memorial Cup to talk about the Blazers, and he correctly predicted that they would bounce back in their second game.
Listen, there's a lot of busy pickleball courts on the weekend, so I'll be playing during the weekdays early in the morning. So anybody wants to come out and challenge, I'll be out there.
Okay, let's talk hockey. Let's rewind to Kamloops' first game. Just your assessment of their performance against Quebec.
tepid, tentative, slow. It didn't look like a Kamloops Blazers team that we had seen over the course of the year, and certainly in the series versus Seattle. To be expected, after a long layoff. But, at 5-on-5, it didn't seem like they could get any footing. And we know how good the power play has been for the Kamloops Blazers. And given an opportunity, when they were down 5-3 in the third period, a 4-minute power play, they really weren't able to do anything with it. So I think part of that it can be attributed to the fact that they were off, and you're not in that game mode. And game mode is like, being just that half second quicker, just a little bit stronger on a puck, being a little bit firmer in making those plays in and around the net, and certainly on the power play where you need precision. It just was lacking a little bit. Kamloops Blazers will be a lot better in this second game versus Peterborough.
And I'm cheating here a bit because I just heard your hit, and you were talking about Logan Stankoven. You'd like to see him maybe drive the play a bit more, get to the dirty areas?
Well, it's not even, Logan's always going to do it. You look at the scoring summary, and you see Logan's name prominent on the scoring summary. But I've watched Logan for a long time, and I thought that was a quiet game for Logan. And when Logan's taking shots from outside, when he's at his very best, he's got opponents back on their heels. He's got them, where is he? And then he's driving at you, he's backing you up, he's drawing penalties. He looked like he was kind of emblematic of the entire Kamloops team. Just a little bit, half a second late, just not as good as he usually is. Again, attributed to the layoff. And I also said this about Logan. The next time he has 2 consecutive games where he's a little bit quiet, it'll be the first time, because he doesn't accept anything less than the standard of excellence that he has set. And that bar is high, not only for Logan, but he wants to set it for his team as well.
Thanks, Craig. Enjoy the city, enjoy the pickleball, enjoy the dinners.
I will.
Do you think you could beat Craig Button pickleball?
I don't know if I could beat Craig Button. I think he's pretty good. I'd probably give him a run for the money because I'm playing regularly now. But I like his analysis between the periods at the game. I always like Craig Button. I know some people don't like Craig Button. I like his analysis. I like what he talks about. He seems really on the ball. Him and Cheryl Pounder and the host there, I can't remember her name, but
Laura Dyken.
Really
every
good.
time I talk to somebody about Craig Button, who's been, like Tim O'Donovan, for example, the Blazers, has been at an international tournament, nothing but good things to say.
Yeah.
You listen to Donnie and Dolly, they're always raving about Craig Button. With me. So I waited for him to finish his hit at TSS. It was kind of cool. I was behind the scenes watching. He comes out, apologizes for being late after the interview. Anytime, come get me. We're here for the week. Let me know. And I mean, he can't actually always love doing it, but he'll do it regardless.
But he's on our show. We're not paying him.
Yeah.
He comes on. He's as long as I can keep helping things like this and helping shows like this and helping spread the word of hockey and all that. He's totally into it. He used to be GM of Calgary
Flames. Yeah,
that's right.
Fraser Minten plays for the Blazers. He is a Toronto Maple Leafs prospect. Their AGM is Hayley Wickenheiser, a 4-time Olympic gold medalist. She popped in, and actually Yves Lacasse, who we just talked about not long ago, said, Marty, Hayley's coming here if you want to interview her. So track her down very quick, and she was generous with her time talking about Fraser Minten and big moments in hockey.
What are your thoughts on Fraser in general?
He's a very mature kid. I think he's been a consistent player through the season with Kamloops. He's got a good frame and a good shot. He definitely projects well into an NHL player. Just working on with him, improving his size, strength, speed. But the kid, he's a student of the game. He's very respectful. He's easy to work with, and he works really hard at his game to continue to improve. So we really like him.
Last one, you've been in these situations before where it's the biggest game of the year for them, the biggest game of their career. So how do you prepare for these types of games to make sure the moment's not too big?
It's tough. I think you've got to just sort of do what you normally do. Your same routine, your same preparation. Hopefully that your preparation through the year has been really good, and you can't change anything at this time of the year. You go out and play the games, as cliched as it sounds, but then you have to be able to rise to those moments and make plays under pressure. So it's about being fired up but staying relaxed at the same time. Yeah, hard thing to do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Clara Hughes is the next big speaker at the speaker series at the Memorial Cup. She'll be speaking at noon on today, May 31st, but we're going to be covering that, so there'll be a story online about what she has. An amazing story to tell. She's won, I think she's the only Canadian to win medals in both the Winter and Summer Olympics.
That's wild.
And she's also had a lot of a journey through mental health, the ups and downs, and really good presentation. I've seen her speak before. We're going to be covering that today.
When is that?
It's at noon at Sandman Center, and it's her speech is worth going to. We're gonna cover it and have a story online later today or tomorrow.
Mike, if you were going to be an Olympian, because you're a sports guy, what do you think would be your sport?
My ultimate Olympian sport?
Like if you could do one sport, what would you want to do?
Like winter or summer?
Either or. Well, why don't give us one from both?
Winter would be snowboarding because it doesn't look that hard.
Yeah, right. You'd have a broken neck so quick.
I said that at a party once, and it was full of snowboarders. It didn't go over very well. I don't know. Olympian. I think I would like to do the, and I don't know what it's called, but when they do the running, shooting, like the
biathlon. You mean skiing and shooting? Biathlon,
they do it. Yeah, I guess it is skiing. Yeah.
Pretty soon that'll be a ban in Canada because of Trudeau's gun laws.
No gun laws. Yeah, and no scopes or something. Yeah. I think. What about you, Marty?
Well, if I could pick one, I think the 100-meter dash is the most glory. 100-meter dash in the Olympics. It's like the number one thing that people watch.
I feel like I've seen with that clip. I can see that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm close.
In the suspenders.
Yeah, a few more days in the suspenders.
What's Chris's?
Oh, curling, winter, and decathlon, because the decathlon gold medalist is the best athlete in the world, irrefutable every time. So that's
is that what I picked? The decathlon?
Yeah. I think javelin. We could have used javelin in our LARPing too.
Yeah. Well, Bill LARPs. He can do the javelin.
I feel the cringing going on over there.
Yeah, let's end it right there. We do want to thank our sponsors one more time. Volkswagen, Terry Lowe, we can't do it without you. 3 more months extending the magic mirror. And he loves the fact that you go overboard like this. And Gord's, more than a year with us. Get down there, have some cookies. Steve Rogers, he likes to hunt. And who else? McDonald's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Ooh, we were way off there.
Good. No.
Anyway, thank you to everybody involved. We'll see you. Can you do your sign-off last week?